Great. So what do you make of this sanction waiver extension the Biden administration is pushing so hard for Iran?
And then trying to reassure us that they're going to use this for humanitarian purposes. A fool is born every minute. You know, that's an old saying. And I'll tell you, I've never seen anything like this administration. Again, I'm just to kind of rehash, you know, in September, the administration granted Iran access to the $6 billion. In October, the Iran-backed Hamas invades Israel. And we've got 1,400 dead Israelis, Americans, and several other nationalities. What did they learn from this? Absolutely nothing, apparently, because now they're going to do a waiver that will allow the Iranians access of another $10 billion in frozen assets this time, with Syria buying electricity from Iran. You know, the Ayatollah has already said that when asked, what are you going to do with this $6 billion? He said this a couple of weeks ago. He said, we will do with it whatever we want to. And they're going to do the same thing with the $10 billion. They will put this and plow this into their proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, Hamas, you name it. They're the largest exporters of terrorism in the globe today. And so all I can say is that this Biden administration seems to just leave everything much worse off than where they found it. He's right on track. And this is endangering the lives of Americans, of our allies, of our American military people. It's an idiotic decision, and no wonder why America's standing on the world stage has done nothing but plummet since Biden came into office 3 years ago.
You know, as I'm thinking about this as well, with the money and the unfreezing and Iraq being able to buy the electricity and give them money and these accounts that Tehran can use, the Biden administration is saying, well, don't worry, it's only for humanitarian needs. Well, then why is it in currency in the first place? Maybe Iraq should be paying Iran in just humanitarian aid, giving them food supplies, medicine supplies, if it really is only about helping the Iranian people. And if the Ayatollahs, you said, if they don't want that, if they don't want to be paid in actual physical medicine and food and all the rest, and they want to get the money, well, then we know it wasn't about the humanitarian aid in the first place. So maybe that's something that they could think about. But then when we talk about this issue and how it's affecting us, you know, as you were talking about a moment ago, we have the DHS memo that came out talking about some of these Hezbollah and even Hamas-linked terrorists that have been able to infiltrate, or at least are suspected to, of our porous southern border. I know the Daily Caller actually is reporting some new figures on this, and I have some of them right here. They say Border Patrol agents have arrested more illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list in October, so just last month, than over the course of 3 years under the Trump administration, according to CBP. And that data was updated just Tuesday of this week. Border Patrol recorded 13 encounters of individuals on the terror watch list at both the northern and southern borders of the U.S. last month alone. That was equivalent to about 11 or 12 that we had under 3 years of Trump. So here 1 month versus 3 years. And I know the FBI head, he was actually just before Congress today, Chris Rain, he was asked about this. We have a soundbite of that. I'm going to play it for you, Congressman. Then I want your reaction after.
Sure. Those individuals, that watch list that we talk about, why do you think in 4 years before this there were only 11 and suddenly there are 294 in the past few years? Why do you think that's so?
I can't really speak to that issue. It's not in my lane. I can tell you that the threats that come from the other side of the border are very much consuming all 56 of our field offices, not just in the border states. That's why I made the point.
Sure, I agree. If I heard you correctly, what you just said is not every state in the country is a border state now. Is that what you just said?
Well, I mean, the threats
to every
that
state.
way, but the threats that come from the other side of the border are affecting every state.
Absolutely, 100%.
As the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, and he is, of course, grilling the FBI director. Congressman, what do you make of what we just heard?
Well, exactly what Chairman Green was angling for, you know. Hey, Chris Wray, director of FBI, what do you make of going from 11 3 years ago to now suddenly we've got almost a couple of hundred that have come across the border on the terrorist watch list? It goes without saying that it's because this administration has simply erased the border. And in doing so, they have greatly endangered the lives and properties of the American people, of the states they're supposed to protect from invasion per the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. And quite frankly, they have opened us up to terrorism on a scale that's probably going to rival or exceed what we saw on 9/11. This is the most foolhardy decision that I have ever seen or even read about in the history books. This Biden administration is simply derelict. What is it? Is it a dereliction? Is it foolhardiness? Or is it something a little bit more sinister? I really don't know. All I can tell you is I think the American people are in grave danger. The United States better be on the lookout. The FBI better be watching. And folks better report what they see and say what they see to the authorities. Because bad guys are here, and they're not here for our benefit.
No, they're not. You got that exactly right. And of course, the elites in D.C., the Biden administration and his cronies, they're making us pay for this as well, making us pay for our demise, make us pay to be less safe. Of course, that same committee that the Chairman Green heads, they just released an interim report that the New York Post was able to obtain some copies about, and it shows that illegal immigration is costing American taxpayers upwards of $450 billion. I mean, is that just adding insult to injury at this point?
That's how much money we spend in our treasure, taking care and processing and carrying and babysitting for millions of illegal aliens that just pour across our border. And, exactly as Chairman Green said, every state is a border state now. My district is 250, 300 miles from the Texas border. Mine is Houston to Louisiana, that southeast corner of Texas. And we are greatly impacted in Houston. Even in my rural areas, we have literally thousands of illegal aliens pouring into the country and just putting enormous pressure on our schools, on our hospitals, caring for these people. And quite frankly, the law enforcement agencies that are involved have much more to do dealing with the cartel activity, with potential terrorism, and MS-13 gang activity as well.
And I know on social media, as you talk about the southern border, the open border, and how that allows for Islamic militants and other terrorists to be able to cross it, you're also raising awareness about an issue that has been percolating for a few weeks now, of the AP, Associated Press, and some other media, and how it seems that they had photographers, videographers that appear to have been embedded within some of those Hamas militants, those terrorists that we saw when they did their horrific terrorist attack on October 7th. We know some of the AP photographers who took some of those pictures that they used to share office space, I believe, with some Hamas members in Gaza. One of them is pictured giving a big old smooch to one of those top Hamas operatives that's said to be an architect of what we saw on October 7th. But is this something that we really need to be addressing? Is this something Congress should be looking at, because it directly affects the security, the safety of Americans both here at home and even abroad?
Absolutely, Kara. When I first read this article, I sent it straight on to Chairman Green and to Jim Jordan, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee. This is absolutely something that should be delved into and investigated. Americans deserve to know if U.S. news agencies had any idea of Hamas's plans to attack Israel and or to murder Americans prior to their October 7th invasion via these embedded photographers. Freelance photographers or not, it's unimaginable to think that someone would know something like this and stay quiet about it and yet then snap the photographs. We need to know what the truth is here. We're not talking about National Geographic. We're not talking about nature. We're talking about human beings here. We're talking about a horrific murder of 1,400 Israelis, civilians, and American citizens as well. And I'm going to name a few because I remember these. It was AP, Reuters, CNN, New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. And if these reporters or photographers had prior knowledge and didn't say anything about it, they've got blood on their hands, Kara, and they deserve prosecution and consequences for their actions.